Hello and welcome back to Interesting Avenue. Everyone at some point in their life dreams of being a hero, while only some get to show their heroism during really tense situations. In today's video, we remember all those heroes who showed calm and chose to stay and help during devastation and death. Stay tuned. Women and children first. The sinking of the Titanic had many heroes who tried to help and save as many lives as they could. However, there were some selfless acts of heroism as well. As the RMS Titanic began to sink during the freezing cold, early morning hours of April 15, 1912, Chief Baker Charles Joan knew he wouldn't survive. Instead of going into a state of panic, he spurred on the other chefs to help him pack food and supplies into the lifeboats. When this task was done, he helped women and children board lifeboats, eventually throwing those who refused to leave the doomed ship into the boats to ensure their survival. He also heaved deck chairs overboard, hoping that those who couldn't make it into lifeboats had something to cling to. Joan is believed to have been the last person to leave the Titanic, gripping the safety railing as the ship sank into the -2 degrees Celsius, 28 degrees Fahrenheit, water of the Atlantic Ocean. The Bakers spent almost 3 hours in the sea before being rescued, suffering only swollen feet. He also ingested copious amount of whiskey before going down with the ship, which is thought to have warmed his body enough to withstand the frigid temperature. When disaster strikes. Miami's beach paradise became the center of devastation and despair on June 24, 2021, when the 12-story Champlain Towers South condominium partially collapsed, killing 98 people. Out of the 4 people rescued from the rubble, 1 died in the hospital. 35 people were rescued from the remainder of the building that remained standing, and a further 11 were injured. Nicholas Balboa was out walking his dog when he experienced what felt like an earthquake. In shock, he realized that the nearby building was coming down, and when he heard a boy crying for help, he immediately ran toward the crumbling structure. When he saw a hand sticking out of the debris, he and another person scrambled onto the huge mound of rubble and were soon assisted by emergency personnel. The boy was stuck under his bed frame and was pulled to safety by Balboa and the other rescuers. 15-year-old Jonah Handler survived, but unfortunately lost his mother in the tragedy. A day of terror. Up next, we have 2 heroes. Now, many heroes sprang into action on December 26, 2004, when the Indian Ocean earthquake caused a massive tsunami that wrecked coastlines, villages, and cities, killing almost 230,000 people. 10-year-old Tilly Smith, who had been on vacation in Phuket with her family, had watched a video of a 1946 Hawaii tsunami in her geography class 2 weeks earlier. Before her eyes, the black and white video came to life in terrifying color as the sea frothed and receded. She pleaded with her family to believe her that a tsunami was coming, and her father eventually alerted resort staff who cleared the beach. Tilly's quick thinking saved around 100 lives that fateful day. Peter Davison, a paramedic from Hobart, heard about the tsunami on the news after experiencing the initial earthquake and immediately headed to the Phuket International Hospital, where he activated their disaster management plan. For 5 days, he worked 16-hour shifts alongside his staff before things started settling down. Davison has been hailed a hero for his dedication in treating severely injured people and maintaining calm in mid of chaos. The tragedy that changed America forever. This September, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks as thousands of people died due to a cruel act. However, there were several heroes who saved countless lives. Here are just a few of them. Benjamin Clark, a 39-year-old former Marine chef, helped everyone on the 96th floor of the South Tower escape the building. He saw a woman in a wheelchair on his way down and didn't hesitate to help her too. Unfortunately, Clark died in the South Tower after it collapsed, leaving behind his wife and 5 children. He was one of many heroes that selflessly helped others that day, losing their own lives in the process. Thomas Burnett, a passenger on the hijacked United Airlines Flight 93, hatched a plan along with a group of other passengers to try and regain control of the plane. The plane eventually crashed in Pennsylvania, but Burnett and the other passengers were posthumously lauded for their efforts and credited with preventing the hijackers from crashing the plane into the White House or Capitol building. Come, I'm here. On March 15, 2019, 28-year-old Brenton Harrison Tarrant entered the Al-Noor Mosque in Riccarton, New Zealand, and randomly opened fire. He continued to the Linwood Islamic Center while continuously shooting at the people inside. Sadly, 51 died and another 40 were injured. 48-year-old Abdul Aziz didn't think of hiding from the crazed terrorist for one moment. Instead, focusing on the fact that his 4 sons and dozens of other people were inside the Linwood Mosque, he grabbed the first weapon he could find. In this case, the weapon was a credit card machine. Brandishing the device, he ran outside and yelled, "Come, I'm here," after which he threw the machine at the gunman. Aziz then got hold of a gun abandoned by Tarrant and hurled it at the gunman's car window. All the while, Tarrant was firing at him, and Aziz zigzagged between cars, never taking his eyes off the shooter. Eventually, Tarrant gave up and sped off in his car, with Aziz chasing him. Soon after, police officers forced the car off the road and arrested Tarrant. Abdul Aziz has been credited with stopping the terrorist from killing more people inside the Linwood Mosque and helping to get him arrested. It wasn't hard. The attack on Pearl Harbor was the tragic incident that finally saw America enter the Second World War. Almost 20 naval ships and 200 aircraft were destroyed during the surprise attack by Japanese forces. More than 2,400 U.S. soldiers died, and 1,000 were wounded. Third-class cook Doris Miller was in the middle of collecting laundry when all hell broke loose on December 7, 1941. Rushing to his battle station, he found that it had been torpedoed, after which he ran to the deck and started carrying away wounded soldiers. Miller also delivered ammunition to 2 machine gun crews, and then manned one of the guns and fired for 15 minutes until it ran out of ammunition, even though he'd never been trained to handle weapons. The 22-year-old became the first African American to receive the Navy Cross for his bravery. Miller said afterward that it wasn't hard, and I just pulled the trigger and she worked fine. Young heroes? On March 27, 1985, 41-year-old Willem Horn lost control of the double-decker school bus he was driving. The bus, carrying 72 students, crashed into the Westine Dam in Johannesburg, South Africa. Mere seconds after the accident, 17-year-old matric pupil Pieter Cohn was out of the open window next to his seat and on the roof of the half-submerged bus. Without hesitation, he dove into the dam water and, after a minute, pulled a fellow student out. He did these 4 more times, each time rescuing a student. The 6th time Cohn dove into water, he didn't come back up. Theo de Coker and Matthijs Waymeyer were in another bus traveling ahead of the yellow bus. When they heard screaming, they both looked around and saw the yellow bus sinking into the dam. Yelling for their own bus driver to stop, they ran, shrugging their shoes and jackets off as they went, and dove into the water. Together they rescued their friend, Dion Bukes, from the water. The 2 boys pulled Bukes to safety and then continued to descend and rescue students, one of which was de Coker's sister. Another student named Danny Theron also saved 3 of his classmates. Almost 3,000 people gathered around the dam, including some of the parents of the students. As they looked on, medical personnel fought to save those who had been pulled from the water. By the end of the day, 42 had died and 30 had been saved. The bus driver also survived. Pieter Cohn and Danny Theron both received bravery awards, Cohn posthumously. Unexpected disaster. There were 47 people on the stratovolcano White Island in the Bay of Plenty region in New Zealand when it suddenly erupted on December 9, 2019. 22 died and 25 were injured, most of whom suffered severe burns. White Island Tours manager Paul Kingi had been on the island that day, and very shortly after he left with his tour group, the volcano erupted. Kingi got into an inflatable dinghy and set off for the island. When he reached it, he managed to get 20 people to safety. Helicopter pilot Tom Story and 2 of his colleagues helped rescue 12 people from the island, despite conditions being too dangerous to fly. No other emergency service helicopters joined them because of the unsafe conditions, so Story Mark Law and Jason Hill loaded the 12 survivors into their own helicopters and transported them to the nearest hospital, for the sake of saving hundreds of thousands of lives. In the immediate aftermath of the world's worst nuclear disaster in Chernobyl, dozens lost their lives. Within 10 days, a new threat reared its head in the form of nuclear steam explosions. This type of explosion would likely have reached as far as Minsk, which is 320 kilometers away. To prevent this from happening, a pressure valve had to be released. 3 brave men took the task upon themselves, with only one of them, Alexei Anenko, knowing the valve's location. Anenko, Valery Bespalov, and Boris Baranov dove underneath the reactor and released the valve, saving the area from an even worse disaster. Tragically, all 3 men suffered severe radiation poisoning after their heroic act and died within weeks. They knew beforehand that they would die because of the radiation exposure, but chose to give up their lives to save the lives of hundreds of thousands of other people. There you have it, selfless acts of people who kept calm during tragedy. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.